whole anti-fake news campaign was an effort on somebody's part to keep us from seeing or believing certain websites and stories by controversializing them or labeling them as fake news. But who would want to do such a thing? As an investigative journalist, I found myself with a few questions about the emergence of fake news as a phrase and as a fad. Number one, what is fake news and what is not? Number two, when did fake news begin? And number three, most interesting of all, I've investigated the shadowy multi-billion-dollar industry that seeks to manipulate all of us through news, social media, and online.
You've got to be especially wary of journalists when they're all saying the same thing.
Well, if you filled up your gas tank lately, then you don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you gas prices are on the rise. I know.
Joe, thanks. New on Sunrise, Frank Ocean tells a major fast food chain to buzz off. And which celeb peed in a glass jar?
Frank Ocean tells a major fast food chain to buzz off. And which celeb peed in a glass jar?
Frank Ocean tells a major fast food chain to buzz off. And which celeb peed in a glass jar?
Frank Ocean tells a major fast food chain to buzz off. And which celeb peed in a glass jar? Interesting question.
Frank Ocean telling a major fast food chain to buzz off. And which celeb peed in a glass jar?
Frank Ocean tells a major fast food chain to buzz off. And which celeb peed in a glass jar?
Frank Ocean tells a major fast food chain to buzz off. And which celeb peed in a glass jar?
Frank Ocean tells a major fast food chain to buzz off. And which celeb actually peed in a glass jar?
It is 19 minutes past the hour. Welcome back, everybody. Those without a sweetheart this Valentine's Day may look to their smartphone or tablet to help direct Cupid's arrow their way, while those with a special someone may look to their mobile device to help them say, I love you.
Those with a special someone may look to their mobile device to help them say, I love you.
Those with a special someone may look to their mobile device to help them say, I love you.
Those with a special someone may look to their mobile device to help them say, I love you.
Those with a special someone may look to their mobile device to help them say, I love you.
And those with a special someone may look to their mobile device to help them say, I love you.
Those with a special someone may look to their mobile device to help them say, I love you.
Those with a special someone may use their mobile device to help say, I love you.
Those with one may look to their device to help them say, I love you.
Those with a special someone may look to their mobile device to help them say, I love you.
Oh, those with a special someone may look to their mobile device to help them say, I love you.
Those with a special someone may look to their mobile device to help them say, I love you. Those with a special someone may look to their mobile device to help them say, I love you.
That's with a special someone may use their mobile device to help say, I love you.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about trouble and trending irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media.
I did a little digging and I traced the effort to a nonprofit called First Draft, which appears to be about the first to use the phrase fake news in its modern context. On September 13th, 2016, First Draft announced a partnership to tackle malicious hoaxes and fake news reports. The goal was supposedly to separate wheat from chaff, to prevent unproven conspiracy talk from figuring prominently in internet searches, to relegate today's version of the alien baby story to a special internet oblivion. Exactly 1 month later, President Obama chimed in. He insisted in a speech that he too thought somebody needed to step in and curate information in this wild, wild west media environment. Nobody in the public had been clamoring for any such thing. Yet suddenly, the topic of fake news dominates headlines on a daily basis. It's as if the media have been given its marching orders.
Got to be especially wary of journalists when they're all saying the same thing.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish things simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Fake news, they insisted, was an imminent threat to American democracy. A noted propagandist told me, "It's like a movie," he said, and it gave me chills at the time. Nearly every scene or image that crosses our path in daily life, he said, was put there for a reason, often by someone who paid a lot of money to place it there. When connecting the dots, I find it often helps to follow the money. I wanted to know who was funding the nonprofit First Draft and its anti-fake news effort. I found the answer. It was Google. Google's parent company Alphabet was run by a man named Eric Schmidt. Eric Schmidt, as it happens, had devoted himself to Hillary Clinton's election campaign, offered himself up as a campaign advisor, and became a top multi-million-dollar donor to it. His company funded First Draft around the start of the election cycle. Not surprisingly, Hillary was soon to jump aboard the anti-fake news train, and her surrogate David Brock of Media Matters privately told donors he was the one who convinced Facebook to join the effort. I'm not the only one who thinks the whole thing smacked of the rollout of a propaganda campaign. Glenn Greenwald of The Intercept wrote, "The most important fact you need to realize is that those who most loudly denounce fake news are typically the ones most aggressively disseminating it." But I can tell you there are two ways to tell that powerful interests might be trying to manipulate your opinion. Number one, when the media seems to be trying to shape or censor facts and opinions rather than report them. Two, when so many in the media are reporting the same stories, promulgating the same narratives, relying on the same sources, even using the same phrases.
You've got to be especially wary of journalists when they're all saying the same thing.
In consumer news, economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors
factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some of the spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take the spring out of the step of the Easter Bunny this year.
It's Cyber Monday, a day on the retail calendar that can be enjoyed from a desk or the couch.
Enjoyed from a desk or a couch.
Enjoyed from a desk or maybe the couch.
Enjoyed from a desk or the couch.
Enjoyed from a desk or the couch.
Enjoyed from the desk or even the couch.
Enjoyed from a desk or the couch.
From a desk or the couch. From a desk or the couch.
From a desk or a couch.
From a desk or your couch. From the desk or the couch. From your desk or the couch.
From a desk or the couch.
From a desk or a couch.
From your desk or the couch.
From a desk or the couch.
From a desk or couch.
From a desk or the couch. From a desk or even the couch.
From a desk or the couch.
Enjoyed from a desk
or a couch.
From a desk
or the couch.
From a desk or the couch. Or wherever you like, as long as you got internet.
I mean, think of it. There are literally thousands of legitimate news stories that could be reported in a given day and an infinite number of ways to report them. When everybody's on the same page, it might be the result of an organized campaign.
Going away. The demand is still there. It's not slowing down. As you can see behind me, this line, John, has started forming even earlier this morning, and it's even longer at this hour. People waiting in the cold to get care. The hospital tells us every day they're working to increase the capacity of this hospital by flooding it with nurses and doctors and equipment just to keep up with this demand.
Hospital in Queens is now the epicenter of the 5 boroughs. So many people lined up to get testing, confirmed cases there. Doctors and nurses are inundated.
Elmhurst Hospital, as you said, has really become the hot zone. Every single day, patients are lining up outside here, many of them with cold and flu-like symptoms. They come here to be tested.
The first thing that I really recommend everyone to do is to turn off the television and the mainstream media, because everything that they say is to make you afraid.
Repeat what you just said, please.
Well, last Friday, I received a 7-page document that sort of told me that if I had an 86-year-old patient that had pneumonia but was never tested for COVID-19, but sometime after she came down with pneumonia, we learned that she had been exposed to her son who had no symptoms, but later on was identified with COVID-19, that it would be appropriate to diagnose on the death certificate COVID-19. Now, we've not done that. If someone has the pneumonia after and it's in the middle of a flu epidemic, and I don't have a test on influenza, I don't diagnose influenza on the death certificate. I will say this elderly patient died of pneumonia.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but my heart is sinking right now as you're telling me this. You're a doctor. Why in the world would they be sending you out information to fill out death certificates, whether the person's been diagnosed with COVID-19 or not, but then to say in the death certificate this person's death was caused by COVID-19? That does not sound right to me. Why would they want to skew the number of deaths due to COVID-19?
Well, fear is a great way to control people.
It doesn't matter what you say 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You've got to go with what the situation on the ground is.
I've been here for an hour. Not one person has walked up to the tents. Not one. Okay? So, and look at all the ambulances down the block. You see any ambulances? Look at, more people are taking videos because no one's believing the fake media. You see all the ambulances that are on the block down there? They're all parked. They've been there for an hour.
I'm standing outside of the Elmhurst Hospital Center in Queens, New York, and according to the media, this is the epicenter of the apocalypse. But it sure looks like a ghost town to me. Look on the YouTube, the CBS News, long lines of people trying to get tested. I don't see that.
With the growing number of patients as supplies dwindle, you can see barricades behind us set up here outside of the hospital to keep order here because so many have been lining up every day to get tested. 13 people have died at this hospital in Queens, while outside it's swamped with New Yorkers waiting in long lines to get tested for the coronavirus. The numbers in the city are still rapidly growing.
It doesn't matter what you say 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You've got to go with what the situation on the ground is.
I don't see anything wrong.
It doesn't matter what you say 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You've got to go with what the situation on the ground is.
Big booty, what you got a big booty. Big, big booty, what you got a big booty. Big, big booty, what you got a big booty. Big, big booty, what you got a big booty.
I'll leave you with a final thought and a warning. It's about a new catchphrase being bandied about, media literacy, as in we'll tell you who to trust and who not to trust. Media literacy advocates are busy trying to get state laws passed to require that their version of media literacy be taught in public schools. They're developing websites as resources for journalists and the public. They're partnering with universities. I think media literacy is a new name promoted by some of the same people who want to tell you what to believe.
We're not just fighting an epidemic, we're fighting an infodemic.
What he's talking about is the rapid global spread of false information. During my research, I came across 3 types of fake news and misinformation regarding the coronavirus.
What about some of the stories that are confusing? Which are then also wrapped up in what we would now say was fake news.
Yeah. Those are all fake news stories about coronavirus.
As new cases of the coronavirus continue to creep up, so too does the misinformation that's out there as well. Fake posts.
How do you handle an epidemic in the age of fake news? There are the carefully orchestrated official messages.
I fully understand public concern.
Science-based, driven by expert advice.
Currently, the evidence from China, at least, would imply that children have much less of this disease.
Backed up by advertising and the mainstream media.
People with their own agendas using terms designed to fool you into thinking they're neutral authorities. What you need to remember is that when interests are working this hard to shape your opinion, their true goal might just be to add another layer between you and the truth.
There was not a single person who had these symptoms who had millions of copies of coronavirus isolated from their blood or sputum. And then they did not do an examination, an electron microscope, of 500 normal people. Now, the people who wrote the articles then said, and I quote, "We did not attempt to purify the virus," which, if you think about it, is mind-boggling. Because if they didn't purify the virus, how do they know that that was the cause of the disease? And the answer is there's no way to know that. But they did take the virus and they did a genetic sequence of it. They said, this is a new genetic sequence which we haven't seen in a coronavirus before. Therefore, this is the cause of the disease. And all I can say is this flies in the face of everything we know about virology.
Now, there was a paper that came out where they had to estimate the false positive rate because you can't calculate it since there's no gold standard to compare it against. And they actually reported an estimated rate of 80% in people without symptoms. So what that means is if you got tested, let's say you were exposed to somebody who tested positive, or you traveled or something like that, and you want to get tested or you're asked to get tested, there would be 4 out of 5 times that there was a positive result, there would actually be no illness. There's actually additional error even beyond what I've described. I'm spending day and night studying and learning this information. I mean, I'm not sitting idle. Like, as soon as I get off here, I have a stack of papers to read and to continue going with my research.
Should we start with the biggest question of all? Do you believe there's a virus in the first place?
No, I do not.
Bill Gates, thank you very much for joining us on BBC Breakfast. I just wonder if I could first ask you, how important is it now to have a global response?
Well, I'd say it's critical because the tools that are going to reduce deaths, the drugs, that's a global thing to get those out. And the thing that'll get us back to the world that we had before coronavirus is the vaccine and getting that out to all 7 billion people.